This is The Real Debrief, a safe space for veterans, sharing wins and losses. The Real Debrief on Dreamcatcher Radio. No fluff, no script, that's real talk. Pull up a sandbag and strap yourselves in.
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't fucking know either. I guess we learned not to do it again.
Yes, sir.
I'm fucked if I know what we did.
Yes, sir. It's hard to say.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So, welcome to this week's episode of The Real Debrief. And boy, have I got a treasure for you this week. He's here in the room already, and I'm sorry if I'm about to embarrass you, Jeff. But he's a veteran, a serviceman, not just in his service in the forces, but since leaving the services. He's got an impeccable track record of helping, assisting, and aiding others. I think he's got genuinely a massive mentality for service. He's a former warrant officer, 2 in the Royal Marines, stands really as a real testament in terms of the service he would provide as a warrant officer, with service and compassion. He was also in the Royal Marines. He served with distinction, including deployment, I apologise, in the Falklands Conflict with 42 Commando. He had many prestigious medals during his time there. He also was deployed Cyprus, Northern Ireland, SAMA again in the Falklands Islands, and long service and good conduct medals. Since his retirement from active service, Jeff basically went on to look at helping other people, other veterans, and he's run his own charity now for in excess of 10 years. The Facebook page, I'll give you it now, but I will remind it later, which he has set up, which has got over 19,000 followers on now, is Veterans United Against Suicide. I've looked at the Facebook page. There's plenty of comments there. And what we will get into and unpack going down the line is Jeffrey's model about how to get veterans talking, trying to look at prevention and communication, and also looking at signposting and providing the best possible service possibly can as an experienced vet. And he's been doing it for 10 years. There's lots of new pop-up sort of, let's use the word, charities that proclaim to offer services such as Jeffrey's. But, you know, he's got 10 years behind him, notwithstanding all the different cases that he's had to deal with over the years, and still does. We've got Christmas coming up very shortly, which is going to be a difficult time for many people, specifically men. I'm not too sure the model and the feedback that Jeffrey gets. We all know the proportion is definitely going to be highly led by men, but how many female ex-vets that he's managed to help. But, you know, one thing we can say, and I will say this, having interviewed many veterans and many people that do their best to help other veterans, we have a little bit of a legend here in Jeff. So, Jeff, thank you for joining me today. I'm sorry about that introduction. It's got to be slightly off-putting, I know, but it's true.
Well, a little bit embarrassed, to be honest with you, but yeah, that's it. You know, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Means a lot, absolutely. It's a lonely place in the front line at times, and it's just nice to know that people do appreciate what we do collectively for the veterans and the serving community.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about your time in service, if I may, how you initially got into the services. And also, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you as well? Can I ask that question first? How old are you?
Okay, I'm 68.
68. The same age as my dad, actually. Okay, my dad is an ex-serviceman as well, but...
Going on 17 in my head, that's the problem. Never really grew up.
I've seen some of your videos, Jeff. So you are, you're colourful, and you've got a lot to say.
Yeah.
When did you first get involved in the services?
I think when I was very impressionable youngster in Birmingham, my dad had done national service, and my dad was one of these people that if you ever met him, you never forgot him. He was a larger than life character. He had a story to tell in his own right. Sadly, he's not with us any longer, but he was my inspiration. And whenever me and my brother were ever troublesome, he used to say, "The services will sort you out, son." So I was in, like everybody of my age. Used to be watching war movies. I was born in '57, so it wasn't that long after the Second World War, to be honest with you. And there was a lot of people that had served in the Second World War still around, quite young in a lot of cases. So I just think I had a feeling for the military, but I really, really didn't know what I wanted to do. And then one day I was sat on the curb with my mate chatting, and we just said, let's go up to the recruitment office, careers office. So we got on a train, went up to Birmingham, New Street, and we went in there. Didn't know what to say, didn't know what was going to happen or anything. We stood there, we had a medical, we did a few exams and stuff like that. And before I knew where I was, this almighty, ginormous man appeared. Excuse me. And I didn't know anything about the Royal Marines at all. And that's the truth. I'd seen the Commando name bounced around, but I hadn't got any clue what the Royal Marines were all about. And this guy come in, and there was a crowd of us, and he just looked at me and he went, "You're joining the Royal Marines." And I was like, "Am I?" "Really? Who are you?" type thing. Which he was, I think that traumatized him a little bit, that somebody didn't actually know what. I suppose it's like when you meet somebody important, like you meet a film star, and you don't know who they are, or a singer, something like that. It's quite a deflating experience for them. But within a few seconds, he'd regained his composure and started briefing me on the Royal Marines, and it sounded so exciting. The travel, the camaraderie, the discipline, the physical exercise, which I was particularly fond of. I was quite a sportsman in my day, so he just said all the right things, and I went back and I spoke to my dad, and he went, "Nah." He said, "You're not joining them." I said, "Why not, Dad?" He said, "You're not joining them, and that's that." So I'm not giving you a reason at the moment. He said, "But I kept pushing him, and eventually he said, 'Look, I don't want any of my son going away and doing something as horrendous as that, and not completing it.' He said, 'If you came back having failed it, you'd be broken forever.' And now having been through it, and many years down the line, I can see exactly what he meant, to be honest, because I see a lot of people that never made the 0.1% that you need to be a Royal Marine.
Is that true? I didn't know that statistic.
Yeah, it was not. I think there used to be an advertisement last year saying 99.9% need not apply, because the turnover was horrendous back then. I mean, I think they've worked on it since I finished, but I was just a young lad who didn't know much about much. When you're about 16, you think you know it all, but clearly, looking back on it now, I didn't know hardly anything at all. So next thing I know, couldn't join up. I couldn't go straight away because they were full, believe it or not, and I had to wait. But eventually, after 12 months, on I think it was the 10th of January 1974, I went, and my career started off as a disaster. Like I tend to fall down a lot of holes in my lifetime, but there was a train strike. and we couldn't get there. So we had to travel down in a minibus from Birmingham. Two Midland boys, me and a bloke called Taffy Bard. We drove down and we met the coach at London, which had the remainder of the troop on. And then we got on there and we drove down to Deal. And I was in the Royal Marines. It was the biggest shock of my life, honestly.
You didn't even expect it.
Absolutely. I can still feel how I felt as I went to those gates. I thought, what have I done? Oh my God, it was like a prison camp. Everybody had skinheads and they were all running around like loonies. And I was like, oh my God, no. The sergeant would come on the coach and started shouting at us and that. Get off this coach now. Oh, my life, what's going on? But that was the beginning, really, to be fair, Brad.
Yeah, I want to talk about what living standards were like generally growing up as a child, but I just want to go back to this 99.9% because genuinely I've never heard of it before, but there's lots on the web about it.
Yeah.
I've just been Googling whilst you mentioned it, and it's actually quite fascinating. It is true what you just said. I'm going back to articles here even of the last couple of years about how that article was still relevant today, which is 99.9% need not apply.
Yeah.
And apparently that affects their recruitment even nowadays, that same article or same promotion at the day.
Yeah.
And it goes on to say here, the idea was to reinforce my commitment to join. But it was a complete failure as an advertising campaign because it put many people off. It spoke about something inside me, aspiration, better performance, deeper satisfaction, more success. Is it easy? No. Then don't bother joining. Talk about closing the door to people before they even entered the room. Nowadays, my understanding is that to get servicemen and women on board is actually quite difficult, probably because of similar sort of rhetoric. Would you say?
I think it's a lot deeper than that. If I'm brutally honest, from my perspective, having served, it was an honour and a privilege to be with those people that got out the other end, and they've always said that the standard was the standard, and weren't willing to drop that standard in any way or form. But again, with what I'm doing now and seeing it from a completely different angle, there are lots of reasons why people don't want to join up. One is the political environment that we currently find ourselves in. People don't feel that the system's got their backs. And it was never in my whole career of 22 years did I ever once think that the system never had my back. But I don't think I could have done what I did. But certainly when you speak to youngsters of today, and I'm talking about my own grandchildren, there is a different feeling about whether the general public, generally speaking, are very supportive of the military, even though it's not particularly vocal. But the system, the political system, the media, I don't think are anywhere near for the likes of the standard of, if you go to America, where people are thanking you for your service and have great respect for the servicemen. That is not communicated effectively in our country, sadly. And that's something that needs to change before you'll get anybody wanting to fight for them.
That's very true. There's something I mentioned to one of my guests on a few episodes back, is in America, servicemen and women are proud to wear their uniforms, and people will genuinely go up to the people wearing their uniforms and thanking for their service. And in the UK, you're not even allowed to wear your uniform in the streets. And they say because of security reasons, through cases like Lee Rigby and the like. But I do get a sense that myself personally, as a civilian, that you guys operate in the shadows, and that's the way you should operate, or that's the way it's portrayed, in my opinion. that you guys are there to do a job that we will never know what you do, and just get on with it because that's what you're used to. Would that be correct? In terms of the way you feel, because obviously you from what you're saying, and I'm 100% behind you. You feel very aggrieved by this, and
Completely.
you're actually talking politely, by the way.
Yeah, I do. That is how I do generally feel about it. And I mean, I don't just build my impression from, it's my impression. It's talking to the volume of people that I have access to with regards to veterans issues. And you get a common theme when you're talking, I don't go, oh, that's one of them and one of them. It was just, generally speaking, I go on the average, and the average person, that is how they genuinely feel. I don't know why it's changed. It's just become very unfashionable. And again, I think the youth of today, I don't want to sound like somebody called me a dinosaur once, but I don't think I'm a dinosaur. I just think, we did come from a different time and things have changed. But a lot of the youngsters today don't see it as a good career move. When we were young, it was a way of getting out of where you lived. I mean, my prospects as a young lad in Birmingham were virtually, I just didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. The military gave me the option to do that, and I just don't think now, and especially after Afghanistan, I mean, the Afghanistan conflict, it weighs heavy on a lot of people. Even as the civilians, they're sitting there watching rows and rows and rows of dead come back in the hearse and stuff like that, thinking, bloody hell, that's not a good career move, is it? Then you've got other lads who were the same boat as me. It was a way out of their communities. It was an opportunity to travel.
Mm.
But then again, people don't tend to stay in as long as what we did. I mean, I did 22, and we could leave at certain periods to our career. But one of the things I do now is I work up at the Arboretum, which is the National Memorial Arboretum, as a volunteer on a Monday. So I get a lot of serving guys that come round to that. And after 3 years, they've had enough.
Mm.
A lot of people, again, joined because they wanted to go to war, believe it or not. And then all of a sudden, Afghanistan's finished, and it don't seem so attractive to those people. So, and then you've got the people that went to Afghanistan. And I mean, I can give you an example of two young lads who I know personally who live quite close to me.
Yeah, please do.
They went to Afghanistan. All they ever wanted to do was be a Royal Marine. They've been Royal Marine cadets through their teen years. They were excellent Royal Marines. They both passed through training relatively easily, if I could say that. They did one tour of Northern Ireland, one tour of Afghanistan, which was unbelievably bloody. Lost a lot of friends, saw a lot of casualties, saw a lot of action. They went the second time, they had 6 months break, and they went again. And when they came back the second time, they said, we can't go again. We just can't bring ourselves to go again, because what a lot of civilians don't understand is those guys were going out on every patrol on every day expecting to die or be seriously injured. And that's a lot of trauma on a young man or woman, as the case may be. So I think those type of things don't help people wanting to join up today.
No, I want to go back to you worded it political environment, but I want to come back to that shortly. Can I just go back to, obviously you were born 11 years after the end of World War II. What was it like living and growing up on the streets then, just out of interest?
I have great fondness when I think back on my childhood. We never had an awful lot, but what we did have was a family unit. Things have changed since then. I mean, obviously, one was people had experienced the trauma of war. and that's civilians and serving.
Mhm.
Obviously, a lot of people have been bombed out their houses. There was rationing. People seem to be a lot more as a community.
Yeah.
People were better bonded, and I think the other thing was, which I think is a major problem in this country, is that the communities were very family based. My auntie lived over the road. My uncle lived just down the road. My nan lived about half a mile away. And the whole family lived in a little small, relatively small area. And as years have gone by, people have moved further and further afield. And you've got people now living, the other side of the world. I've got a sister that lives in Spain, for example. I've got a brother that lives down south. I've got children that live in Plymouth. So things we've just fragmented as a family. We are still very close, but not as close to go around and ask for some assistance. Can I have a bowl of sugar? Can I have a bit of milk?
Mhm.
And I say, because people had experienced an awful lot of hardship, lots of people killed, and lots of people suffering from the effects of war. I think the community spirit was far greater. And I'm not going to throw the race card in there now, but I look at the Asian community in Birmingham, and that's how we used to be. They're very close. They're very close knit groups, and I think we've lost our identity a little bit with time.
It's very interesting you mentioned that because that's an analogy that I talk to people about a lot about how, you know, let me just try and word it correctly, although I'm all about being open-minded and express yourself as you see fit. But us people, British people, let's say, we are the most useless people ever about coming together. We are really crap at it. We claim to have loads of friends and we're community spirited and that sort of thing. Do you know what? The most time you meet people nowadays where you all come together is funerals.
Weddings or funerals.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
Where communities are far better operated, better than us. They really are. And
Well,
I say us in the loose sense because there's not them and us. What I mean
no,
by that is,
it's
even with starting our first home, they will get 6, 7, 8, 10 members together, whatever is necessary, and they will
yeah.
buy that home.
I
We
always
don't.
use the example. You never see. Birmingham's a very multicultural city,
It sure
very,
is. It sure is.
and you never ever see an Asian person homeless on the streets begging. I've never ever seen one
Well,
because
that's a very good point, actually. I never thought about that.
the family pull them into the family group, and you don't bring shame on the family and all this type of stuff. But it's that you look around at the white people, not say white people, but the, the locals, if you like, as it was,
Mhm.
everywhere, absolutely everywhere.
That's a very good point. I never thought about that. Do you know, when I was young, I was probably about 17, and I used to work for WH Smith's Wholesale, packing newspapers. And one of the daytime managers, he was Asian, and the company wanted me to progress in WH Smith's. And so I used to love working nights, to be honest. I met so many veterans as well, packing newspapers. They used to beat me up like anything verbally, that is. And half of it I didn't really understand. I just knew they were taking the piss out of me. The Anyway, and so he was a marketing manager there, which was basically selling newspapers and magazines, and he used to go out the road. And I never met many Asians until I moved to London, Plymouth, where I grew up. My dad, like I said, was in, I don't know if I said it, was in the forces, and I was born in Dusseldorf in Germany. And we moved to Plymouth, and Plymouth is a squatty town. It's chaos at night time down Union Street and all that jazz. But anyway, you didn't even see many black people when I was young anyway. It was only when I was probably about 9, 10, 11 plus the first time I saw a black person. The and my mum and my mum's parents were overtly racist. It was horrible. I found it so weird and I didn't really understand it, but I knew I was disgusted in what they were saying. My dad wasn't. Anyway, so I was out with this guy. I can't remember his name, and he said, "Oh, we're not going to do much work today. I'll just show you the ropes in my community." So he took me to a place called Edgware, which is North London, and he said, "That's where I live here." And there's a massive house. It's probably worth millions now if they still own it. That is the and went into the house, and there must have been about 20 odd people in this house.
Yeah.
And you could probably, if it was a typical British household, you'd there may be 6 bedrooms in this house, but there's like 20 odd people. But there's like 4 or 5 different generations, cousins, aunties, uncles, all the lot. And he was explaining about their culture. That was back then.
Yeah.
That was back then. And it never crossed my mind to think about homelessness. That's a really good one, actually. I've written that down now because that's fascinating. And that was back then. But he said our belief is that we've got to support one another to enable all of us to survive. That was back then. And just when he was earning probably about 28 grand a year at the time doing his job. But when you pull it all together, how much power you have then.
Just unbelievable. Well, it's still the case today, definitely.
It is, yeah. I mean, the communities get criticised for it as well. Oh, they're all out for themselves. Well, fair play to them in some respects.
They're just all. I mean, if they're entitled to anything, they all get it. Like it's things that when I left the military, I was too embarrassed to ask for.
Yeah, that's experience I've met of many vets.
I just cracked on, like so many of my brothers and sisters did. But they're organised. They know what they're entitled to, and they get everything they're entitled to. Whereas we are just so laid back, and so we're more interested in helping other people than helping ourselves half the time.
But I do also remember using that. Is when you're on an airplane, they say put your mask on first before helping someone else. We don't do that.
No.
The something you alluded to just then is about the fact when you come out of the services, something that a lot of the vets talk about here. The loss of brotherhood, which no doubt has been mentioned many, many times to you, but also the fact that you walk out the door and you're empty-handed, so to speak. You've got nothing.
It's a major point, and it's one of the major points for poor mental health. Or there's several things. The first thing you've mentioned already is the fact that when people leave, they lose the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the friendship, the banter, and all the other things that are mixed up in that title, really. But the other thing is that the transition is unbelievably poor from military to civic. And a lot of people complain that 1 minute they're in, the next minute they're out, and you get the comments of, I was just a number. Now, to feel that you're just a number, I think it's terrible statements that people feel that within quite a short period of time of being out, they feel like they're betrayed, they're forgotten about. Now, don't get me wrong. The thing is, it's like everything. It's a massive spread across the board. You get a lot of lads and ladies that come out, and they do fantastically well. They integrate into society very, very quickly. And then you get others who don't. Now, one thing I always prided myself on, I'm just talking about myself for a minute, if you don't mind, is I never forgot who I was. When I was a sergeant major in the Corps, when I came home, I wasn't Sergeant Major Williams anymore. I was Jeff, and that was it. I knew at some stage I would have to integrate back into the society, and the best way to be able to do that is to be yourself, not a TikTok soldier shouting and screaming at people. It just doesn't work. So there's 2 areas there, really. So one is the fact that they just go out, no not proper transition. And I'd like to add to that is it takes them years to build a fighting machine or a serviceman or a servicewoman. It doesn't happen overnight. It's probably, to be honest, it's before you're really effective, it's probably 2 or 3 years. Yet they expect you to come out and revert back to a civvy in 3 months.
Yeah, forget all those things that you were taught.
You're going back into the into the civvy world, not prepared, and that's where so many people struggle.
Yeah, the numbers are quite huge as well, isn't it, Jeff?
As in what? Sorry,
that people that struggle, and also people that
I
do.
think there's more people struggling than there are okay. That's for sure. I don't know what the percentages are, but I would say, well, let me give you another example. When the guys came back from Afghanistan, there was a lot of trauma, mental issues within the whole of the forces that served out there. No matter what job they did, whether they're exposed to combat or anything, it didn't really make that much difference because you can get PTSD by talking about it. I could talk to you about a couple of the situations I found myself in, and it could profoundly affect you. So if you're in a captive environment in the middle of Afghanistan, being bombed, shot, you speak to some of the nurses and the doctors that had to put the guys back together again, and how many they lost and how many they saved. There's an effect.
Yeah,
that
of course.
never leave you. There's guilt. Could I have done better? Why was it him, not me? And all this type of stuff going on.
Yeah.
There was a lot. We had an awful lot of people after Afghanistan, and the way that it all ended, people thinking, was it worth it? And they came out. They came back, and then they started experiencing the basics of PTSD. Intrusive dreams and one thing or another, anger, depression, being frustrated all the time,
Misunderstood.
much, and all the other things that does. And they were vacated out the military. Now they didn't just have to contend with transition, which is leaving the environment, finding a new house, finding a new job, finding a new school for your children, and all the multitude of things you have to do. They also have to contend with the fact that they were mentally scarred, they were mentally damaged, and we as a community, we as a country, were just happy to let them go, and you go and sort it out. There was never any provision made by the government or by the country or by whoever you want, or by the military even. What are we going to do with the guys that are damaged when they get back? There was nothing. And their only plan they had was to hand these people over to the NHS, which was blowing out of its arse anyway, and had no experience of combat grade mental health issues. It's just a recipe for disaster.
I need to go to a break. I've just made a couple of notes there.
Okay.
I just want to tell you very, very. I'm not necessarily asking for comment, but I'm guessing you could relate possibly to people that you've met, and you've done one-on-ones with a lot of people. On our show a few months back, a veteran was casually talking to me, and he said, yeah. And he said, and I stepped on a landmine one day, come off the landmine, and it blew up my mate behind me, and he was dead. And he started laughing to shrug it off, and that was it. Boy, man, did that guy break down immediately, crying his eyes out to cut it off. And it just shows that guy could never forget that memory, which he couldn't. It's not even human not to forget that memory anyway. But how quick he just said, "Oh yeah, and my buddy, I stepped on a landmine, didn't necessarily realise, but it blew up my buddy and he was dead." And then he started laughing it off just as a natural thing. And then that was it. 20 minutes we were off air for, but he wanted to carry on just to get himself controlled. I'm not necessarily asking for comment on that. We can come back to comment on that. I'm sorry to end it on that, but that genuinely happened on my show. Would you like to introduce your first song? I know you've got a couple there.
Okay, well, I've gone for a military song, really, that's really close to my heart, because I think it's what it's all about at the end of the day, and it's He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother.
I love it. I love that song. I'm going to play that now for you, Jeff.
The road is long with a many winding tongue that leads us to who knows where, who knows where. But I'm strong. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. If I'm leaning at all, I'm leaning with sadness that everyone's heart isn't filled with the gladness of love for one another. It's a long, long road from which there is no return. While we're on the way to there, why not share? And the Lord doesn't weigh me down at all. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. He's my brother. He's my
So I was just explaining then, just before that break, and I'm sorry we didn't have enough time for you to respond, but we've now obviously got time to respond. Where this veteran explained about a difficult experience they had, which clearly would traumatize anybody, and that's, you know, he's another veteran that left the services. Essentially, his wife left him before him leaving, left him basically, I think about 9 months beforehand. She was preparing to leave, but she didn't know how to tell him. And then he come home basically with his bag. But he did have a house to move into, which was his own house that he had with his wife. And she said, "Look, I'll be in touch in a year's time. Just get yourself sorted." That's how she left it with him. I don't know if you got any comment about that, Jeff.
What I would say is we see an awful lot of reasons why people go off the rails, people get disillusioned, get depressed, mental health issues, and sometimes suicide. And I mean, we don't keep stats on it, to be fair, in regards to reasons, but from my personal experience, one of the main reasons is relationship breakdown. Everything seems fine when you've got a stable relationship. And even if it isn't fine, it's better than when you actually realise you're by yourself.
Yeah.
So relationship breakdown is very difficult to contend with. And again, a lot of ladies that marry a young Marine who's virile, fit and strong and healthy, goes away periodically and one thing or another, is a different man to a guy that comes out the services and then has to try and find his way, basically sometimes from the bottom. And a lot of the ladies don't stick with them. There's a lot of pressure on them, and the ones that do, the relationships do succeed, are very special, and very strong, and very understanding. But it's very difficult if you find yourself in a situation where at your moment of need, your wife or your husband, if it's a lady, exits right. And, it seems like a mountain that you can't climb. And so many people struggle with that. The other thing is obviously finance. So all of a sudden you ain't got the dosh you used to have. You're not picking up a pension straight away. You got to wait for numerous years. And you find yourself going for jobs that, to be brutally honest with you, are beneath you. You've been in command of, in my case, at one stage, I had about 200 blokes under me at one stage when I was HQ Sergeant Major for a short period of time. And then to find yourself in the dole queue with a lot of people that don't want to work and never have worked, it's very, very upsetting. I found that traumatic, if I'm honest. And in fact, not many things break me, but it almost reduced me to tears when I was stood there. I thought, what the bloody hell am I doing here? So I'm not, I'm going to go from my personal experience, but I know a lot of other people feel exactly the same.
You're right, because that's got to be a surreal moment, isn't it? Like you standing there, and you can only possibly, I imagine, I've not been in that situation, where you look at reflection, because what else have you got apart from looking at reflection and thinking like, what the F? And then you've got a minion there, the other side. I apologise for people that work in this sector, asking you questions and asking you about which experiences they wouldn't even ever understand for a month for Sundays.
No.
It's got to be so upsetting.
It's so difficult.
It's so destroying.
A lot of people struggle with the communication because what's acceptable in the military, with the dark humour that you mentioned earlier, laughing off pretty grim situations just to keep yourself going, keep yourself sane, is not acceptable in Civvy Street. And I'll give you an example of myself. I was quite fortunate. I worked my way up. I ended up being an area manager for a recruitment company, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. But I had some young girls working for me as consultants, and I'd never had ladies working for me before. I was only used to a total male-dominated environment. So I had to adjust very, very quickly. I found it quite difficult, but I did do it. I used to say things off with the missus, and she'd say, "Oh, you can't say that." But I had one situation where I feel like sometimes people are trying to trip you up.
Right.
And I'd come from an environment where I trusted everybody 100%. And if I asked for something to be done, it was done.
Yeah.
9 times 10, I used to do it with them. I wasn't one of these blokes who just stood there and said, right, you go and sweep the parade ground or whatever. I'd get a broom and do it myself with them. But when I come in Civvy Street, so I was in this environment, and this was a long time. I'd been out about 15 years, so I'd had a fair bit of experience at this stage. And one of the girls bent down, and a knee clicked. It was like a rifle shot. It was that loud. It clicked, and I went, "Oh, what was that?" And she burst out crying. I said I'd embarrassed her, and reported me to the management team. And all I did was show concern about her what I considered not wasn't an injury, but it couldn't have been pleasant for her. Yet next thing I know is I'm in front of the general manager explaining what I'd done. And I was like, I don't get it. He said, well, you've got to come to terms. These girls are very sensitive. I thought, well, yeah, it's sensitive and it's sensitive, mate. So it's difficult in that.
What was the outcome in the end, anyway, of that? Just out of interest.
I think she was told that I'd got a bollocking over it. I never really warmed to her after that. I wouldn't say I marched her out the door because I didn't, but people like that don't tend to last in the recruitment world, it's very dog eat dog, very fast paced, very dramatic type of environment, which I loved because that was very similar to being in the military, to be fair. They don't last.
What is it? Is it like, do you want the guy or not? Come on, get on.
So we had some good times, to be honest with you. I mean, I used to, rightly or wrongly, I surrounded myself with a couple of former military guys as well, who, I could sound things off and they could sound things off me. And it worked pretty well.
It was a totally different sort of role because you're selling especially in that job, you're selling both ends as well. I used to own a recruitment company years and years ago.
In yourself as well, you see.
Pardon?
You're selling the battle. You're selling.
Yeah.
It is different, but it is the same skill sets, to be honest.
Yeah. You talked about the political environment and also how the media portrays. I mean, the media, to be honest, in my personal opinion, we're a small radio station. We are growing quite a rapid pace, but I find the media do not give anything significant attention when it comes to veterans. You go up to any media personality and ask them any statistics on veterans, they know very little.
No.
There's a bit of conversation at the moment regarding homelessness of veterans, but hardly anything whatsoever. LBC did a little skit, which I quite enjoyed, to be honest, where Nick Ferrari called up the helpline for veterans if you're homeless, and one veteran got offered a tent, and another veteran said that they'll be given a call back, didn't get a call back.
No.
And that was just two examples, and they said, look, we just did two just because we had running out of time to get this done in time because of the veteran minister was on. And I just think, do you know what? That is beyond offensive.
Yeah.
Given a tent, bearing in mind the current circumstances of what's going on in this country with hotels and the like, and a veteran gets given a tent. I mean, I've got an interview with the Gurkhas, which I'm doing this week. What was agreed by government with the Gurkhas, it ain't happening.
No.
They're looking at going back on the hunger strike again.
If I can be brutally honest,
Yeah, please do.
The girls who are serving and who are veterans will appreciate me saying this. I've had you said 10 years, but I've had more than 10 years in the sector, but I've had at least 10 years in the mental health sector. And the media, and this is from the media themselves, I've got a lot of connections that want to talk to me when it suits them. But when I want to talk to anybody about the pressing problems in the veterans community, there is no interest, no will to cover it. Now, we're told that, people can, it's free speech. You can say what you want to, as long as you're being professional and you're not being rude and all the rest of it. But the likes of the BBC, the likes of the ITV, and the likes of Sky News, they're the ones I've had main contact with. And I'm talking about 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 occasions where I've had to speak to them. And they do not give out what you say is not what is presented. They pick bits out of it so that it fits the narrative. They don't want any waves caused. And I'm absolutely convinced there's a suppression of the truth. Because I know the general public, if they knew the truth, they would be absolutely horrified the way so many veterans and so many serving are treated. And I see it every day. And it's one of the hardest things I find to contend with, but it's one of the reasons, it's one of my motivators why I've been doing and putting myself through this. And I might say as well, post-cancer, I shouldn't even be here,
Wow.
Was because I didn't want anybody, one, to feel how I was feeling. And I wanted it to be a better world for the average serviceman who hadn't got a voice and the average veteran. Bearing in mind, your serving are totally suppressed. They cannot say anything in fear of being disciplined or some sort of repercussions. And all of the media outlets, bar probably one, which is a friend of mine who's a former veteran who does numerous articles supporting veterans. But even he said to me, Jeff, there is no interest in veterans matters in the media. That's what he said, and he works in the middle of it. He said, I can't get some of my stories published because they're not interested. They don't want to hear, whiny old veteran moaning about this and moaning about that. You get things like, well, that's what you got paid to do. Well, yeah, I agree with that. But anyone that claims anything about anything in Civic Street, any civic complaints about anything, they were doing their job as well. And we were doing jobs that people didn't want to do, couldn't do. They would never be able to do some of the things that my guys have had to do over the years and the things we've had to see and put up with. And you can't voice it. You shut up. And even my own corps, and I hate knocking the Royal Marines because I love them to death, and they did a lot for me. But you know what? They won't step out of line. The officers won't step out of line in fear of reprisals, fear of not picking up the medals or the awards or their career afterwards. Whereas the average bloke's not interested in that. They just want to survive. And sorry, I find it really, really frustrating. I've written to Penny Mordaunt, Johnny Mercer when they were in the veterans position. Who else was there? Leo Doherty, every single one of them. And I got back. Bear in mind, we were discussing veteran suicide, which is the biggest threat to the veterans world at the moment because we're losing people at the rate of 1 every 5 days, approximately. We've lost over 100 since 2017, and that's only the ones that we know of. And they're saying it's not important and nobody needs to know about it.
I'm pretty confident it's more than that, Jeff.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, we were. The story goes that we approached the government with some figures, and they turned around and said they're not accurate. Then the Times heard about what we were doing.
It is one of those feel-good songs.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. Sorry, I apologise.
The system wasn't acknowledging our numbers, and the Times then got hold of us and said, look, we've heard about these numbers. Do you mind sharing the data with us? We said, we don't like to because it's been done in confidence. But we did. And they came back and they went, bloody hell. I said, what do you mean? we found 10 more than you've got. And I went, well, we're not going to get every single one. Because a lot of people don't want to talk about it. They just want to hide away and try and forget about it. But they didn't want to hear about it. And we kept getting these generic letters back that never answered the question. And we found out eventually the reason why they were saying it wasn't a problem, and they kept putting a shield up and deflecting it, saying that it was the same as, no different or less than the general population. Well, that's
No, that's
untrue.
definitely not true. I've got so many stats about that. It's definitely
Because
not
I'll
true.
tell you now, we lost, in that first year, we lost 98 people, I think it was. I've got the figure here somewhere, 98. Can you imagine the uproar if 98 doctors killed themselves, or 98 firemen, or 98 policemen? They'd go absolutely. Well, we had one celebrity hang himself. Can't remember who it was now, and it was everywhere.
Yeah.
But they didn't know about veterans, and we were losing. Like I say, we were losing people 5 days at least.
Yeah. One thing I've just done a little bit of research and background, but I know I can't remember what I think maybe in Combat Stress told me this back in March, because we did an event for Combat Stress, a music event, and they said 1 in every 36 hours in the UK. Now, I've gone to the website, I can't even find the piece, but that's what they told me. I'm pretty confident it's Combat Stress. But looking online here, from the Royal British Legion here, back in 2021, and statistics, strangely, very, very odd to get statistics from UK Armed Forces. In 2021, there was 253 recorded deaths, suicides for veterans in 2021 in England and Wales. So that's more even than. So there's 365 days a year, 250. So that is literally less than every other day, I should say.
I mean, like I say, we live it every day of the week. They did what was in them when they did that, and I don't believe that figure's accurate.
But that's 2021, and I'm pretty confident it was Combat Stress that told me.
I don't think that. I would ask them where they got those statistics from then, because we live in the middle of it every day of every week, and we have done for since 2017. And I don't think it's that many. If it's that many, then we've got 5 times more problem than we think we've got.
Yeah.
So I'll be surprised, because when we challenged them with our figures, they were not even recording veteran suicide. So how are they recording veteran suicide if it's not being? They don't know that half these people are veterans. It's not on their records that they're veterans. So I want to know I'd be interested to know how they got those statistics. And I think you'll find they pulled them out of the air. And that's the truth. That's my personal belief, because we speak to people, we speak to the families, we speak to the mates of these people, and they're confirmed numbers. But yet we don't get them all by a mile.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's that many. And if it is, like I say, they should be jumping all over it if that's the case.
Yeah. I mean, I've just sent you the link across from the Office of National Statistics.
No, I have seen it.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, going back to this charity event for Combat Stress in March, I was speaking to some media outlets to get some coverage on it. And you know what they said to me? This is all of them carte blanche. We can't cover this sort of stuff. And I said, why? And the general consensus, which without them actually saying it, was if people actually knew how veterans suffer post leaving the services, no one's going to go and sign up.
Exactly. We say it all the time. I mean, it's got to affect recruitment. And I think the message has got out there that servicemen are treated appallingly, and that's why they are having a problem recruiting, and more importantly, retention. They spend all the money getting the person up to standard, and then they go and leave. There's lots of reasons, but I mean, you start. If I start telling you how I feel about it, I won't do it justice, I don't think, because there are a lot of things that people don't want to hear that are wrong. And I approached the general about it, and I had a conversation like this about it. And he said, Jeff, you can't say that. But
Yeah.
you know, I don't think that the current environment in the military is as good as it could be.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was as good as when we were in.
Yeah. You're better off talking to the winds, so to speak. The Jeff, let's talk about your charity and your Facebook and that sort of
Okay.
stuff. Hopefully, you can try and turn this into positive. I mean, we've kind of discussed what I know anyway. When we even got veterans in prison that shouldn't be in prison, they need help. They don't need to be sentenced to prison sentences. And there's too many of them in prison as well, but that's a separate matter. But let's talk about Veterans United Against Suicide, your journey into getting into that. You explained to me last week about how you established it, a small group of you, and what you actually do. So you're going to have to repeat yourself, unfortunately.
Okay,
For
fine.
the listeners.
Right. Well, how it all started was I'd been involved in the Free Marine A campaign, and I'd finished it, and I was at loose end really. And during that time, I'd had opportunity to meet or make a lot of connections, basically. And I was made aware that a Royal Marine Sergeant, who was an absolute legend, had committed suicide. And I was absolutely mortified. I could not believe it. Because, again, in my service of 22 years, I cannot remember one suicide. None. I can't remember one. And I spoke to a lot of people about it as well, and they don't. So something's fundamentally changed since when I come out in 95 to where we are today. Because we're losing people, like we said, hand over foot. And I wasn't aware of it. So I did some research like you do. Started asking around and started checking one thing or another, websites and that. And I found another one. And then I found another one. And I think I found about 5 on the first time I looked. And I was just flabbergasted. I couldn't believe that I'd missed it. So then I started making more deeper, intrusive conversations with people. And then it became very clear that there was a starting of an epidemic of veteran suicide. And a lot of it was on the back of Afghanistan and Iraq. But when I looked at the history as well, I didn't realise, but apparently, and I can't prove this, but apparently, as many people have died of suicide from the Falklands War than we lost down there. You know, astronomical number, and all the pain that goes with it, because it's just massive. Anyway, so I got a few of the lads together, and I said, look, this is what I found out. You know, we've lost 5. We've lost 1 servant and 5 veterans that I can find. Why don't we ask the government what they're doing about it? So that's what we did. We got told there wasn't a problem. And maybe we should look at something else rather than that. Well, I don't like that type of communication, so it just inspires me to be even more, you know, more bloody minded about it.
They
So
literally tried to brush it under the carpet.
yeah. They wanted us to follow the narrative that they were putting out there, like they do on everything. You know, they want you to forget about it because something else happens and then you forget about it, or they make it too difficult for you to pursue. They keep throwing obstacles in your way. You know, even if it's just filling forms out these days, you know, you've got to jump through hoops to get anything. And it's just the way that they deal with things. They're just trying to push you off, palm you off all the time. But I won't having any of that. So we got a small group together. I think it was 5 initially. And again, it upset a lot of people because we did it differently. A lot of companies start up groups and that. A lot of groups started up. And the first consideration is Veterans Affairs. But once they start a charity, then they realise that the first thing they need to worry about is money. You know, paying themselves salaries, and all the other costs associated with running any business, accommodation, transport, vehicles, fuel, light, heating, blah, blah, blah. But I run this from my house, and my right-hand lady, Jules, she runs it from her house. We don't take any monies whatsoever. I don't believe in it because, again, the veterans community, whether they like it or not, it's the truth, can be quite toxic when it comes to money. So we decided that's not what we're going to do. That's not the model we're going to follow. We are just going to volunteer, and we're going to make a difference without having to worry about getting 50, 60, 100 grand of salaries before we even start and put a penny out to any veteran. So any monies that come in, which is very little because we don't ask for money, what we're doing is building awareness so that people are aware that there's someone there in their moments of need. And the likes of combat stress, don't get me started with that. I mean, we had a veteran, Gus, I think his name was, who went on a hunger strike because of his dissatisfaction of the service he received. And they were closing units down when they should have been opening them. And they were very cash rich. But again, like all the top charities, it becomes a business. It becomes about money. And you know, when you buy your poppy, for example, you don't think that that poppy is going to support the salaries of the people that are supposed to be helping the people, helping the veterans and the serving. You think that money is going straight to help a veteran, otherwise you wouldn't do it. Wristbands and all that sort of stuff, hats and clothing, all the money goes to the veterans. But we're building awareness more than anything else. We do goodwill projects because what happens is, for example, we had a lady who was a veteran, quite an elderly lady, and her husband was a veteran as well from Northern Ireland. And they were living in a council house, and the cooker had broken, and they were cooking all their meals on a little military stove, one of them blueies, they used to call them blueies.
Yeah, I know what you're about, yeah.
And they were cooking the meals on that. They'd gone to some of these larger agencies, and been told there was a process there to go through. They came to me, I heard about it. Well, she contacted me and said, you know, this is a situation, thinking I would use it as like a propaganda type exercise. I said, no. I said, what do you need? She said, I haven't got a cooker. And she told me the story. I went, right, okay, you'll have a cooker by the end of the week. And I put the story out there to the lads and just said, look, this is the situation. We've got a former Wren who's got no cooking facilities. He's eating cold food rather than cook. That ain't good enough. So I put it out there, and within 4 hours, I had enough money to buy her a brand new cooker. And in fact, the cooker was delivered within 2 days through Curry's, if I remember rightly. But she hadn't got a fridge either. So I bought her a fridge. And that changed that woman's life, right? And it took literally an hour work, 2 hours work, and it was done. But none of the big organisations could take it on. And that's the difference.
And why do you think that is, just out of interest?
Because I think they start off wanting to look after veterans, but the admin and the running of them gets in the way. You know, we fill all the gaps. Let me give you an example. Just ask the main charities how many helplines they've got that are manned during the weekend, which is the biggest problem in most veterans struggle the weekends.
Yeah, weekends and early hours of the morning.
Holidays. And holidays, like you say, or Christmas is terrible. They won't be open.
Yeah.
They'll get,
One thing I noticed about combat stress as well.
It's got to be finance, hasn't it?
To use combat stress as an example, because I've got personal first-hand knowledge, is that they have meetings about meetings a lot. They were so difficult to get hold of because I'm in a meeting, or I've got to get approval to post this. I'll get back to you next week. You think, like
It's
a
all
week?
wrapped, yeah, it's all wrapped up in red tape, mate. That's the problem.
It's bizarre, though, isn't it?
It's crazy. Now, the thing is, as well, again, to give a balanced argument, there are veterans that are taking the piss, and that doesn't help the situation.
Yeah, I've heard some online. Yeah,
You know, they go from one group to the next, to the next, and just getting what they can. And we've had people do that to us. But I think that says more about them than it does about us. I only focus on the positives that we do.
yeah,
And there's lots of positives. And, you know, we've got about 6 or 7 ongoing things that we're doing at the moment, which are not they're not on this veteran suicide side. But if they were left, they would end up being veteran suicide situations. So what we're trying to do is cut it off at the source.
yeah.
And what the charities need to do, again, they won't thank me for saying it, but it's the truth, and people can't handle the truth half the time, is they need to open the purse strings.
Yeah.
And they need to start dealing. They need to start dealing with the problem rather than finding excuses why they shouldn't do it. They haven't got enough caseworkers. They haven't got enough people on the ground. They're not quick enough. They haven't got. There should be a hub in every city.
Yeah.
Not saying you've got a problem, you go straight to that hub. You ain't got to phone somebody or scream and shout. You just go to that one place, and they deal with you straight away. And if it means putting you in a house, and again, I'll mention that if you don't mind about the homelessness, because
Go ahead. Yeah, please do.
you know, the homelessness is absolutely, it's a travesty that we have got people on the streets who have been to war for this country, freezing their knackers off, starving to death, and we've got visitors from other countries living in hotels, walking past our people on the streets to go to their bed. I don't get it. And when I approached them, my idea originally was, okay, and it's farcical now when I think about it. I said to them, look, I'm not trying to give you problems. I'm trying to give you solutions, but you don't want to listen to me. You know, I'm living in the middle of it. I know exactly what's going on. Why can't we have a camp? We'll call it camp. Just say now. I'll remember a minute. There's a camp. And any veteran in the UK who's down on his luck, been thrown out by his missus or whatever, can make his way to this one camp and know that he's got a cup of tea and a bed to go into. And they went, are you serious? Because they're not interested in that. I'm talking about back 15 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. Look at us now. We can find hotels, hundreds of them across the country. We're now preparing camps for them to go into, but we couldn't do it for our own people. And I can't tell you how much it hurts me to think
Yeah,
that
I'm going to tell you a story. Have you got about 15 more minutes?
You far away, mate.
Okay, perfect. We'll have to go to a quick break, then I'll have to come back to you. I'm just going to tell you a quick story, and I'll send you a copy of the video because I saved it, and it actually, I didn't believe it at first, because I thought this maybe AI or staged or whatever. But there's a hotel in Brighton, and there was a veteran sleeping outside the hotel, and you can imagine who was in the hotel.
Yeah, of
right?
course.
They were not people on vacation. They were illegal migrants. The police moved the veteran on from the hotel, and he moved literally 0.6 of a mile away from the hotel. But the police actually actively moved this guy on. It's all online. I'll send you a copy of it. And anyway, he got sorted by the person that was recording it. The guy was half cut, not the veteran, the person recording it, and he couldn't believe what he's seeing. And he just got his camera out. And a lot of people get a camera out to record all sorts of stuff nowadays. And in some respects, it's sometimes a good thing. But then basically he put the veteran up for 2 nights in a hotel. But that was the story. I mean, can you get anything more like breaking news than that?
but it weren't
I
on the
mean,
news, was it?
no, nothing was covered about it. Nothing in mainstream. You would not
Yeah.
find it. The only places you would find it on social media, and it went massive. I think it had something like 900 and something views, 1,000 views. That's so I should say. And a lot of the comments were from Americans. I know.
Hey, the Americans, I mean, we got people that, when we first started it, we built our model on an American model. So the Americans helped me set it all up initially. And they just couldn't believe what was going on. I mean, they've not got it perfect themselves over there.
Well, the
But
VA are terrible over there.
it's a damn sight better than what we've got. I mean, they have got hotels for veterans. They have got hospitals for veterans that they can go and not be charged with mental health issues.
No,
We've got nothing like that.
no.
We've got to get in queue. We've got to get in the queue with people that have just come across on the boat.
It's an extraordinary situation. Can we just go to your next song, and then when we'll come back?
Yep. Okay. Well, my next song, which I find very emotional, but also inspiring, is "Bringing Him Home."
Okay, let's play that now.
God on high, hear my prayer in my need. You have always been there. He is young. He's afraid. Let him rest. Heaven blessed. Bring him home. Bring him home. Bring him home. He's like the son I might have known if God had granted me a son. The summers die one by one. How soon they fly on and on. And I am old and will be gone. Bring him peace, bring him joy. He is young, he is only a boy. You can take, you can give. Let him be, let him live. If I die, let me die. Let him live. Bring him home. Bring him home. Bring him
Thank you for sharing that. Now, I want to talk about utopia, if there is such a thing, about how we move forward. But before we get to that, you've been doing this for a long time now. Can you share some amazing moments where you think we did it? There must be moments where you felt. I know you used an example of the oven and the fridge, but we're talking about saving lives here, and I'm pretty confident you've saved lives.
Oh, absolutely. Well, honestly, to be brutally honest with you, there's that many. So I'm just trying to think, which is probably. I mean, I've had a close friend that I served with, and we talked him. He was driving up the motorway. His brother phoned me and said, "Look, he's going to crash his car into the next bridge he comes to. He'll listen to you. Give him a call." I rang him up. He took the call, thank goodness, and he was in a right mess. Managed to get him to pull off at the next services, and then spent about an hour calming him down, talking about the good times. Because when people are in that dark place, I mean, you can't save everybody. That's the first thing you have to get to your head. There's a percentage of people just go and do it, and that's that. You don't see any signs or anything. But a lot of people fall into the next category, and they're people that are crying out for help. And you can see the signs. On this particular occasion, like I say, his brother was concerned. I spoke to him, and I managed to talk him down. Tried to remind him of the good times, and how his future could look like. There was another guy who's done particularly well for himself now. Like I say, I won't use names because it's embarrassing for them, but he was quite a character in the Royal Marines, a very big character, and he was in a mess. And he literally broke down on the phone and said, "Look, I need some help." And we sat with him and spoke. Because what we tend to find is when you've got a veteran or a serving guy talking to a veteran or a serving guy, there's an instant connection. And in my case, having been through the treatments and stuff for PTSD, which I struggle with myself, I can connect with them quite quickly.
Yeah, there is a different. I can tell you one thing that I do know is that we're deemed as pussies, and we can't talk to veterans, and you don't never understand that sort of stuff. And that's not to be derogatory towards veterans, but that's what they think. They don't think they're better than you, but you don't understand. The
There are a lot.
lingo. You could say some very nasty things to a veteran in need, and they will listen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like everything. It goes both ways. Two sides to a pancake. There are people out there who are civilians who are very well trained, and do a fantastic job saving people all the time. But there are others that just do not understand. And the guys, if the guys think they're talking to somebody that don't understand, they close down straight away. And the girls as well. You just don't. It doesn't happen. So there's a couple there. We had a guy who was bloody slitting his bloody wrists on Facebook live.
Wow.
Oh my God.
People were watching him.
Oh, yeah, it was on live, and somebody phoned me up straight away and said, "Look, have you seen this?" I said, "Yeah, I'm watching it," and I was phoning like mad trying to get his attention. And I never got attention, but one of the team did. We're all trying to do it at the same time. And again, he stopped. We couldn't find out where he was. That was the problem. The police got involved and everything, but they managed to get to him. But he had slit his wrists. And if he'd been there any length of time, he'd have been gone.
Wow.
So it's getting there in a timely manner, because when you talk about the utopia of what we need prompt action. So if somebody's suicidal, we've had people on bridges, had people going to jump in the river. There's one bloke on the cliff in Dover going to jump off the cliff, or Folkestone, or wherever it is down there. We've had guys walking down a train track waiting for a train to come and hit them in the face. But sometimes you can get them and you can pull them back, because they don't. So they're in such a dark place. They don't believe. This is what I get anyway when I speak to them afterwards. Some of the survivors as well, is they think that they are a burden to their family, and then that is just total figment of their own imagination, because the family are desperate for them to be sorted out. But something might be said in a moment's anger between a man and his wife, say, for example, or partner, and it triggers it. And they feel desperate, and they see so many things around them that are wrong, where they're not helped, and they just slip down this path quite quickly. If you can get them there and get them some assistance, even if it's just to talk to them, it can change their brain chemistry instantly, and all of a sudden they see some hope. But I'm sorry, a lot of charities at the moment, they've got to look at having a call centre, not press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 3 for this. When a person is at their wit's end, it just doesn't work. So they're numerous. I mean, I see other groups going, oh, we've saved 12 people this week. And I'm thinking,
I don't believe them.
you know, we save as many as we possibly can. But the problem you've got, you see, is we always say reach out. That's the key. You've got to want to do something about it. You've got to grab the hand that's trying to rescue you. And when drink and drugs are involved as well, it just complicates the matter even more.
Well, the thing is, as well, when that's going on as well, there's no clarity. There really isn't. You know, you'll be meeting Peter one day, you get Harry the following morning. You know, and you don't know who you're actually meeting. There could be Luke in between, who's the person you won't actually would be talking to. The other thing I will say about this, there's a lot of pop-up pseudo charities. Does that frustrate you? Because it frustrates me, and I'm not even in it.
Again, to be honest, the charity, veteran charities, is £1 billion organisation, apparently, operation, when you put them all together. But we don't get £1 billion worth of support. So I think we need to overhaul the charity sector completely. Again, there'll be a lot of small charities. Oh, what's he saying that for? But anybody can set up a charity. I'm not a charity, I'm a Facebook awareness group. We always use the word charity, but that's how people perceive what we're doing. But we're not asking for money. We don't ask for donations. We do periodically, but we're not going out fundraising and all that sort of stuff. It's about getting the people to pull them back. And a lot of the small charities, they're all over the place. You can set up a charity with no background at all. I've got people who have never managed people, never managed finance, got no communication skills whatsoever, no man management skills, and they're running a charity. Now, when
those are the people I'm on about.
Years, but when Johnny Mercer was the Veterans Minister, he was farming money out to the smaller groups. I think the first time he did it, he got $1 million, and he spread that $1 million around on, I think there were like 50 grand grants to some of the smaller organisations. Again, I say we never asked for it, we never applied for it, so it doesn't matter to us. But if you're going to get 50 grand as a small charity, in my mind, I'm sorry, but you've got to prove that you've effectively used that money to make things better, not to buy a new computer for the office, a car, some awards evening, or whatever the case may be. It needs to be going to things that make the things better. Because I just don't think, and this is the bottom line for me, I just don't think we're solving anything. It doesn't appear to me that.
Yeah, I mean,
here's the problem. Right, let's have a think tank on it. Let's talk to people like myself who have lived it for a long time now. Nobody comes and asks me my opinion, because they don't want to hear the truth. Because I will only say it as it is, and they don't like it. So I make enemies in that. Oh, don't talk to him, because he'll just say it as it is, and that's not.
Yeah, but you're not exactly tinfoil hat, are you?
No.
Just I got given this early in the year because I never knew this. And I'm not bashing other charities. I'm not. I'm just saying this is what goes on. And it just so happened that I had the opportunity to speak to yourself. But the Royal British Legion themselves, yeah, they spent 48.05 million in 2024, the financial period, in order to raise 160 million, 30%. But 48 million pounds were spent on overheads. That doesn't make sense to me. Does it make sense to you?
I have to be careful because I'll say I volunteer from on a Monday. I've seen it from the inside, and I could, once I stop working for them, I might just let the cat out of the bag because it's not working properly.
Yeah, I've been to some charities' head offices where they got like waterfalls and everything there, and I just think, really,
you see the people that they employ, and they tend to be, how can I say if I'm being politically correct? They tend to be graduates.
yeah,
People with very little experience of working in the military sector. They might have previous charity experience in some cases, but I see a lot of them, and I look at them and I just think, what are you actually doing, really? I mean, again, you look at diversity and stuff like that. They spent a fortune in employing a manager to manage diversity in the Royal British Legion. And I think somebody said to me, it cost them 50 grand to get the candidate. The recruitment process cost them 50 grand just to get the person, to make a few badges with a rainbow on.
yeah.
And I'm sorry, priority.
Like logos and all that sort of stuff, isn't it?
The week for the anniversary of I think, was it the end of the war or whatever, VJ Day? He did something with regards to LGBT, whatever it is, and I just thought there's more pressing things. Honestly, that's great. I've got no issues with it, but let's focus on the things that are most important. And like I said, we're losing lives. If it was a battle situation, that we're taking at the moment, you'd withdraw.
Yeah, I think a lot of it though, Jeff, as well, in order to get grants, you need to tick all these boxes to say that we've got this person who's doing this and that and all that sort of jazz. But, it's at
a lot of good charities, they can't get a penny.
Yeah. And it is at the detriment for the overriding objective, which is helping and saving people, in my personal opinion. And anyway, let's look up. I mentioned the word utopia, which is the wrong question, really, one word. If you had a 5 or 10 point action plan, Jeff, sorry to put you on the spot because you didn't know this question was coming.
Yeah.
What would you do? You've had 10 years to think about it, though. I will give you that.
First thing I'd do is I would set up hubs that are interlinked around the UK, like the breakfast clubs we've got at the moment, similar to that.
You mentioned that. You did mention that to me when we spoke last week. Do you want to mention about your breakfast clubs? I think that's quite important because that seems like really good fun as well.
There's a lot. Most areas now have some sort of breakfast club where veterans can get together, have a chat, let off steam if that's the case, or get some support, talk about the old days, swing the lead lamp, sit in a nice comfy chair, having a cup of coffee, and they do a lot of good.
And they're completely free, aren't they, as well?
Say
they're free as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No cost. Maybe getting there. Some of the more disabled people find it difficult, but they befriend people who go and pick them up, and they're fantastic, and they do a great job. It needs a little bit more structure to make it into better than what it currently is.
Yeah,
and it could be quite easily done. So I would have a look at a little network.
So we got number one is hubs. What would number two be?
Number Number 2 would be, well, in the wish list, I was asked this by a general once,
Okay.
and he said to me, what was you want? And I said, well, ideally, we need to follow the American model because they're further down the track than we are. And we need to learn from them and the mistakes that they've made and do it better. We haven't got as many troops on the ground as they have, so it should be cheaper and it should be easier. So the first thing I would do is I'd speak to America and say, right, tell me what you do. Let's see what the good things that you do for your veterans. And what you'll find is, like I said earlier, I would have an hospital for veterans.
Okay.
It's not difficult. It's a lot of money, but again, when you look at the billions we're paying out at the moment for nothing, they could build a hospital because the money they're spending on hotel accommodation for our friends. I think I tried to work out how many hospitals we could have built with that money just this year alone.
I'm sorry to bash on about it as well, but we spunked 700 million on a Rwanda deal to get rid of like half a dozen people. 700 million.
Madness.
And no one's accountable. No one's accountable.
To go and then they come back.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a couple of examples of that. Yeah.
He's completely horrible. But I would want a hospital.
Yeah.
We used to have hospitals. So I'm not asking for something we never used to have. We used to have 2 or 3 military hospitals around the UK. There used to be one down in Plymouth, one down in Portsmouth. I think there was one in London. So they closed those down over the years for cost savings.
Yeah.
So so I would have them. I would at least have one minimum, and I would have it manned by service people. Again,
so it's a similar sort of environment which people will be used to.
Totally feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And everybody likes a nurse tucking them in, don't they?
All that sort of banter, that dark humour that we're on about.
That would boost their morale straight away.
Yeah.
And then hotel for the homeless.
Yeah.
I would have that. I would then look at the big picture and work out how we can get it all integrated so there's a direction.
Yeah.
I would have the veterans minister should have, and I can't believe he doesn't do this. He should have a team of people that are veterans, and he heads the meetings once a month and goes, right, what's topical at the moment? How many people have we lost? How many people have got homeless? How many people have got in prison? How many people have got complaining of drink problems, drug problems, whatever the case may be? And then looking at them under a microscope and putting solutions in place. There's no one doing that. It's all knee-jerk. It's all reactive, everything.
That's exactly, I mean, pardon the pun, it's like putting boots on the ground, so to speak. But a meeting once a month for half a day, that's not much to ask for, is it? From people that are actually talking to a lot of people. Because you'll
get the accuracy right then, not what they think the problems are. The guys know what the problems are. They're living it. They completely get it.
Yeah.
And people like me who they trust and talk to, I get it because I hear it.
Yeah. And a word that I talk about a lot on the radio station is purpose. I think we need to build an atmosphere to try and find everybody's purpose. Because someone, you talk about your dedication to service, which is clearly identifiable, and evidence doesn't lie. You've got an incredible track record. But to have a purpose, even disabled or not, whatever it may be, is a purpose. There's a purpose there for everybody, and it's finding that purpose and building a platform around different purposes.
Well, that's what I used to do in recruitment.
Yeah.
Is you interview somebody and you look for their skill sets, and you look at the things that make them tick and what excites them. Again, I've been asked many times why I do what I do, and I've said, that's a really good question. But let me tell you this: it's because I want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not having to. It's either in you or it's not. You're either a caring nature or you're not. I still feel like they're my men. and I cared about my men. You know, when we lost a bloke, we're all absolutely devastated. But we did everything in every single combat patrol, every battle in the Falklands. The first objective was, how can we do this? We've got to win it, but we've got to do it so we don't lose minimum people. You know, the First World War, where they all were in the trenches and they all went over the top and they all got shot, them days are long gone. People are more tactically aware now. And so that's always been our motto. You know, we've got an intelligent military, even more than when we were in now, with some of the kit they've got, with the drones and all the rest of it and the satellites. You know, they've got so much going for them. And all these skills are transferable in the civilian sector.
Yeah.
There's nobody going out there and going, right, you're a nuclear engineer on a submarine. Got a job for you, mate. Boom, gone. You know, it's the skill. They're trained higher than their civic counterparts.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And also, they're trained off to also not to be distracted, which is a big thing, a big problem in our society is distraction.
On time,
Yeah.
order, all those things are just ingrained in you from day one. But I just say, I know a lot of veterans who are, they're just not utilised correctly.
Yeah. It must be demoralizing for them. However, I want to ask a question about you, Jeff. What do you do for fun?
For fun,
Yeah.
I like fishing.
Right. Okay.
I love Birmingham City Football Club, so we've just started a veterans group down there for the fans, for Blues fans, where we get together, we get former players to come in, and I just have a chat. It's a boost up version of your breakfast club.
Yeah.
But our common interest.
So it's funny enough, it's still veteran led as well then. Do you get any
Right.
piece? So fishing, do you go fishing by yourself or with other veterans or what? Or
I do go with other people. I tend to take my grandson now.
Okay.
Saying that I haven't been this year, but that's what we were doing. But a lot of things have gone in the way this year with
Yeah.
personal health and stuff like that. But
Yeah, of course.
fishing, football. I love my cricket. I used to coach when I came out. I used to coach local cricket teams. I used to coach the Arbroath County Cricket Champion team. I brought them down to Warwickshire to play a competition down here in Birmingham. So there's lots of things, but it's funny you say that because it's just been noted recently that maybe I should be looking after myself a little bit more than I have been. Been too much.
We are on the show talking about veterans, but then, when I first had a brief chat with you, we were talking about veterans, and then you've talked about veterans, and and I'm thinking, what does Jeff do for himself? And by the sounds of it, not a lot.
No, I don't. And I'll get. I've got a supportive wife. I've got a fantastic family. They're all wonderful. We have our own problems like any family does. But what I've done on the Facebook page, especially on my Facebook page, which I share all the stuff on there, I've tried to make it into a family, because what I'm trying to do, bottom line, is I would love to see a harmonious veterans community where we are helping each other, where we support each other. I support mothers of the deceased, and when you see the heartbreak that anybody being lost causes, it inspires you to do better. And in my naive, it's been described as by many people. My naive thoughts are of a harmonious, happy, well-respected, well-motivated veterans community, and serving, because all our serving are going to be veterans someday as well.
Yeah.
And I think the units have got a part to play in that. I think the units could do more than they do. I know their main focus is producing soldiers and going to war, but once you leave, you don't put your toys away.
Yeah.
You're still a military man or a military woman at heart. And I think that's the hardest thing to overcome. And we need to do something to keep that fire burning. And I think a lot of people their mental health would improve dramatically. So that's where it is. But you're right, people like myself push ourselves too hard sometimes, and then you don't become effective.
Yeah, it's not just that as well. Is that you've got to have, some rewards, if you want to call it that, because otherwise you're just in the system, and you're inadvertently there. Now, what I will say, I think there is an avenue and we're going to kind of finish it here because I'm going to get people to find out your socials and all that sort of stuff. There is an avenue here that I can fully understand while the service themselves wouldn't want people like you giving advice, speeches, and all that sort of stuff while they're trying to build people up to be these, people to say, look, this is what you've got to look out for down the line. Right? I get that bit, but I think there's an opportunity where, if people are getting ready to leave 3-6 months prior to hand for leaving for a role like someone like yourself to step in, I think that would be a great advantage for people leaving. Now, that's my personal opinion anyway, but I get it why they wouldn't want you going in early doors and talking about your life experience and how shit things are when you get out potentially and all that sort of stuff. I kind of get that. How do people find you, Jeff? We already mentioned your Facebook. Do you want to remind people how to find you on all your various socials? Or I don't know how many you've got, website or whatever.
Well, there's several Facebook pages. I mean, my name is Jeff Williams with a J, Jeff Williams. I'm easily found. I'm the good-looking one in the picture. Got a military uniform on, greenberry and stuff. Veterans United Against Suicide is a Facebook page. And also, there is also another Facebook page called Form Up, which is FORMUP, Form Up. And again, we share all our information on there. Anybody that needs any assistance, they just need to reach out, message me or message one of the team, and somebody will be straight back with you, and we'll signpost you in the right direction. You'll get immediate attention. So we don't do treatment. We used to fundraise and then put people through mental health courses for other charities, but we stopped doing that at the end of the day because it became a major distraction. But that's something that maybe somebody else could do. The more mental health people we get out there, the better. And certainly a lot of charities would snap your hand up with supporting. Guys and girls out there that have served, they have got so many skills and we need them. And if the more people that have got eyes on the people that are struggling, the more we're going to save. And that's got to be the bottom line at the end of the day. We've got to save more than we're currently saving. We're not getting the support from the system. The system would rather try and forget about it. And we've got to change that mentality so that they're aware of the numbers that we're losing. And more importantly, the numbers that are suffering. I mean, we're talking of thousands of people who have served their country, who are in a dark place, and that can't be right.
No.
That's no reward for service.
Yeah. It is for me, I think it's egregious beyond belief, if I'm personally honest. The how you can just abandon people. And then, sorry, one other thing which I was, because you kindly have given up your time, and I was going to mention something else about homelessness something that I've mentioned that I've written to ministers about as well, is about as soon as people come out the services in terms of social housing, right, they must be treated as priority need. Nobody is like talking to the wind, deaf ears. No one wants to talk about. They must be given priority need automatically, whether they're healthy, not mind well, whatever. Who knows what goes on down the line? But they must
Well,
be priority needs.
the
No one listens.
we're supposed to guarantee that, but it hasn't happened.
No, it hasn't.
No,
No.
I mean, there are people above us. And again, it's not just a matter that they get housing, they get a decent one. I mean, some of the squalor some of the lads live in.
Yeah.
Honest, you think you wouldn't put your pet in there. And then
I think your screen is frozen. I'll just talk over you, see if your screen unfreezes. But Tony Blair brought in your screen froze there, Jeff. Sorry. I don't know how far you got. Squalor. That's what I got to.
the squalor that people live in, it's just horrendous. They put in decent houses. I mean, it's not beyond the realms of possibility to build a veterans community. Build a little town or something like that, and stick them all in there. They want to go home. They want to go home, but with like-minded people, you can't just snap them off from the military, throw them into Civvy Street, and expect them to survive. It's just not. Well, it's proven. The stats prove it. It's not working.
No, it's clearly not. It clearly isn't. And the other thing is, I talked about decent homes and that sort of stuff. Tony Blair brought about decent home standards that never really worked out well anyway in itself, for even social housing. I remember I worked in Upper Hayford in Oxfordshire, which used to be the old American Army base. The entire town was the American Army base. And they had old properties there, but they were perfectly livable. They just needed to be refurbished, the asbestos removed and all that sort of stuff. And they did develop it into private and social housing, a company called the Dorchester Group. And there's still army personnel there, the airfield's still there and that sort of stuff. But it just shows that it can be done. The problem is there's no will.
There's no will there. Most politicians, it's what's in it for me. And they'd rather sell those plots of land off to investors who can rebuild and make money. It's all about money at the end of the day, rather than saying, let's look at let's look at other reasons rather than money. But money's behind everything, a shortage of it, but we can find it when we need to. And like I say, what's going on at the moment with the money that's hemorrhaging out the country, it breaks my heart when I think I've asked for stuff and got nothing, just been laughed at, disrespected. Like most veterans, whenever you raise your voice, I put my head above the parapet, and I was advised not to do it. You've got a good reputation, you've got you've had a good career, and you don't want to be stirring the pot. And I'm saying, but it's wrong, and it could be easily fixed. But we need the will, like you said. That's the key. We need some politicians that actually care about the veterans community. I don't think we've had a veterans minister that truly cared, because if they do, it's knocked out of them.
Yeah, it doesn't take too long for them to be driven down a different path.
And it done.
On that,
And I could list about 50 promises that we've had over the years, and none of them have come to fruition.
Jeff, we're nearing Christmas now, which we've identified. We both know that this is a very difficult time of year. And this is a veteran show, and veterans predominantly listen to this. Have you got anything to say to your fellow veterans, and a Christmas message or something like that?
Well, my Christmas message to you would be to reach out if you're struggling. You don't have to sit there in silence. Pair up with a buddy. I know many veterans that would find an extra seat for a mate who was struggling to sit and have a family Christmas with them. But we can't do it if we don't know. So, look at Christmas, time of celebration, family time. If you've got family, reach out to them. Maybe they're just waiting for you to put your hand out and meet them. But have a special time, and then it'll give you the strength to endure whatever the next year has got coming for you. We can only hope that things get better. But if everybody pushes in the right direction, everybody supports everybody, everybody keeps an eye on everybody, buddy checks and things like this, we can have a great year next year. And maybe we won't be talking about so many negative things. We'll be talking about positive things, which is what it's all about.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, Jeff. To see us out, have you got a final song there?
Right, okay. Well, Born Free means a lot to me. What I fought for was the freedoms of my people, our people. So Born Free, trying to think who sang it now. Of my life.
Don't worry, I'll find it. Don't worry. I don't know either. I'm racking my brains here.
The guy's got the most beautiful voice. Matt Monro, fantastic voice.
Okay. It's been an honour and a pleasure. It really has been an honour and a pleasure. Thank you very, very much for spending your time with us today. Please do look out for Jeff's Facebook, Veterans United Against Suicide. And as he just rightly just said there, just come and say hello. Come and talk. The Facebook page is monitored regularly, and someone will pick it up very quickly by the sounds of it. Thank you very much, and I'd like to wish also everybody, I'm sure Jeff is expressing the same, a very Merry Christmas. But please do reach out. There is so many helplines out there. There is even on our website. You go to dreamcatcherradio.co.uk, look at helplines for veterans specifically. I think there's at least 10. And they're all free phone numbers. Even if you go to a payphone, it's free. So please do recognise that there is a solution there for everybody, I assure you. Jeff, thank you very much again. Really appreciate your time.
Cheers, sir. Look after yourself.
And as it's party time, if you feel like dancing, dance. Born free as the wind blows, as free as the grass grows, born free to follow your heart. Live free and beauty surrounds you. The world still astounds you each time you look at a star. Stay free when no walls divide you. You're free as a roaring tide, so there's no need to hide. But only worth living, 'cause you're born free. Divide you. You're free as a roaring tide, so there's no need to hide. Born free, and life is worth living, but only worth living 'cause you're born free.
Thank you for listening to our guest stories this week. from around the world. This is Dreamcatcher Radio.